NRATV with Grant Stinchfield.
Hi there and welcome to the program. We here at NRATV are counting down the days to April 27th. That is when the NRA's annual meetings begin in Atlanta, Georgia. It is setting up to be a fantastic event, and now we know we will have a very special guest, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. For gun owners, the significance of all of this is, well, huge. Someone who knows this firsthand and has gotten to know the president quite a bit over the past 2 years is the NRA-ILA's Executive Director, Chris Cox. Chris, great to see you again.
Hey, Grant, it's great being with you. Hope you had a great Easter.
You too, Chris. I did. And so, really, this is huge.
This is going to be exciting. Look, I'm fired up as an NRA member. Yeah, I'm excited to go and see my fellow NRA members, hear some great speeches, and as you mentioned in the lead-in, we have a very special guest in the President of the United States. It's been a long time coming. The last sitting president to come to our annual meeting was Ronald Reagan. So to have President Trump there, for all of us as members to talk about the things that are important to this organization and this country is really historic. I'm really looking forward to it.
You know, Chris, we have talked that President Trump has called you out by name, called Wayne LaPierre out by name on many occasions. The significance of a relationship as close as the NRA now has with a President of the United States cannot be underestimated. This will go a long way for NRA members and gun owners everywhere, really.
Well, Grant, it's important to keep things in context. This man's been president for less than 100 days. It'll be 99 days on that Friday during the forum. And if you look at what's happened just in the first 100 days of this president's term, it's been historic. We now have a Supreme Court back on the side of individual freedom, back on the side of the Second Amendment. We have someone in the White House who supports the Second Amendment. That's a big shocker after 8 years of Barack Obama and a Justice Department with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, you know, after Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch Justice Department. Ron Zinke over at Interior, who cares about shooting and hunting and all the things that we care about as people who support this freedom and love this country. So we're already seeing some great benefits. We're already seeing some great action items as far as Second Amendment and as far as gun owners, but we're just getting started. And having the president at the meeting, I think, is going to send a great message to the country and a great message to NRA members who worked so hard last year to help him get elected.
You know, you had mentioned the significance of the first 100 days of the president. It may not be large, giant, grand-scale, sweeping pro-gun legislation that we've seen, but we have seen him chip away at these overreaching Obama-era regulations that were totally anti-gun. There's been a whole slew of them that he's thrown out the window.
Well, that's exactly right. And the most important thing that's been done, obviously, and the most important thing for the next 30, 40 years is having Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. The president did his job and fulfilled his promise that he made to gun owners and the American people to put a Second Amendment and constitutional supporter on the Supreme Court. That's exactly what he did. But as you mentioned, before you can drain the swamp, you have to change the culture in Washington. And needless to say, if you look just at the media's reaction and at our opponent's reaction to this president, you can see that they're not real happy, which should make us all feel quite warm and fuzzy inside. But you're right, there's a lot of things that have been done. We talked about the Social Security Administration repeal that went through a CRA, a Congressional Review Act. We've seen other items. We've seen a repeal of the lead ammunition ban on federal lands, some real meaningful changes that are already taking place. We've seen Jeff Sessions return, the prosecuting mentality to the Department of Justice after it was turned into the Department of Political Justice. All of these things are very meaningful. So it's great to have a Second Amendment supporter in the White House, but our job is not over. As we've talked about, now we need to maintain this momentum. We need to maintain our contact with our elected officials. It's time to pass national right to carry reciprocity. It's time to pass the Hearing Protection Act. There are a lot of things that still need to be done, and hopefully coming out of Atlanta with all the energy and excitement that's going to come out of that town will help us move forward in those legislative fights.
You know, one of the things that I have heard about annual meetings is that it certainly can motivate the base to really get out there and fight. And one of my biggest concerns right now is we need motivation. You look at some of the congressional races, these special elections going on around the country, districts where Republicans and pro-gun lawmakers had won by big, large margins. We're seeing those margins decrease to razor thin, and we've got Tom Price's seat being filled tomorrow, or a special election tomorrow. I'm concerned when you see these razor-thin margins that people are sitting back and saying, oh, you know what, the NRA won it for us, they'll take care of it, and they don't worry about things, but I don't think we can afford to do that.
Well, Grant, you're exactly right, and your concerns are legitimate. Look, the day after the election, we all woke up happy, but our opponents woke up, needless to say, not too happy. And if you look at the reaction, if you look at the riots in the street, you look at the reaction of congressional Democrats trying to undermine this president at every opportunity. You look at the media's reaction to this president, trying to delegitimize this president at every step of the way. They are committed. Their base is motivated. You've seen, as you mentioned, some of these special elections in Republican seats where Democratic challengers are raising over $10 million in a special election for the House of Representatives. This is high stakes poker, and you're right. This fight has not stopped. And in a lot of ways, it's only just beginning. So the good news is there are more of us than there are of them. The good news is we have, the side of the Constitution. We're the Constitution's on our side. Freedom's on our side. We have our founding fathers and previous generations who fought and died for this individual freedom that we now protect, but it's up to us to do that every single day, because if we don't, our opponents will rally. They'll have the organization and the money. You've already seen Michael Bloomberg pledge $25 million to try to undermine an expansion of self-defense in this country. Don't forget, this is the guy who said all he was interested in doing was keeping guns out of the hands of the wrong people. Well, apparently, Grant, we're the wrong people, because he doesn't believe that we should have the ability to carry outside of our home state. That's what we're facing. But again, working together, not letting apathy sink in. I share your concern that a lot of our fellow Americans, not NRA members, they recognize the fight, but those tens of millions of gun owners who don't belong to this organization, they aren't tuning into NRATV, they aren't reading their magazines, they don't understand that the threat's still there, that we face very serious fights right now, and it's up to all of us to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of our members all across this country and continue to move freedom forward. If we do that, we're going to have a historic first term with this president, but if we don't, it's going to be a real challenge going into the 2018 elections.
Yeah, Chris, I've been covering a lot of these issues for a very, very long time, most of my adult life, and I think right now, as far as the Democrats and anti-gun lawmakers go, they are clawing, they are kicking, they are fighting, they are engaged, they are raising money, and I worry that people are still toasting champagne to the election of Donald Trump instead of doing some clawing and kicking back.
Well, all too often people on our side treat this freedom as a hobby and treat politics as a hobby, while our opponents treat it like a job. They're out there working every day to try to undermine what it is we're trying to do. And we can sit back and complain about it. We can criticize them and say that it's not right or it's unfair. We can just accept that the mainstream media is going to try to undermine this freedom. We're going to accept that elites like Michael Bloomberg and Barack Obama are going to try to delegitimize the Second Amendment, try to use the First Amendment to destroy the Second Amendment, or we can do something about it. We're doing something about it at the National Rifle Association. We did it last year when we made our earliest endorsement in the history of the organization and supported Donald Trump when not a lot of people were out there doing it. As you and I have talked about, we were on the ground mobilizing and running ads before the campaign was running ads and mobilizing. So NRA members worked really hard. We understand what's at stake, but it's up to all of us to reach out to our fellow NRA members, our fellow gun supporters and Second Amendment supporters who aren't belonging or aren't a member of this organization. Tell them to join. Tell them now's not the time to sit on the sidelines. Now's not a time to rest on our laurels. We can do great things, but only if we're engaged, because I can tell you, and as you've mentioned and as you've seen and accurately reported, our opponents are organized. They're pissed, to be perfectly honest with you, and they're trying to do everything they can to destroy this freedom, and it's up to us to stop them. We can do that. We've done it time and time again. Every time freedom's needed us, our members have stepped up in a major way, but we need to do that today just like we did all of last year working to get Donald Trump elected. You know, and to bring this all back full circle, April 27th seems like it is perfect timing for all of this, because it will motivate people to get out there and do something. The whole lineup of speakers, not just the president, but the whole lineup is fabulous. And I think this is going to be good for America, not just the NRA, but good for America and freedom-loving Americans everywhere, Chris. Grant, it's going to be the biggest family reunion in the history of the country. We're going to have our NRA members from all over the country come and join us in Atlanta to celebrate freedom. That's what this is about. This is about celebrating the Second Amendment, standing shoulder to shoulder. As you said, we have a great lineup of speakers, but we have a great lineup of events. The members meeting on Saturday is always exciting. The concerts on Saturday night, there's family-friendly events. If you haven't already got your tickets or booked a bus ticket or a plane ticket or filled up your car and getting ready to drive to Atlanta, it's not too late. You can still go to NRAAM.org, buy tickets, participate. It's going to be a great celebration, and I look forward to seeing all my fellow NRA members from all over the country there.
Yep, and we look forward to seeing you as well, Chris Cox. Thank you so much for sharing thoughts with us. You keep up the fight. We so appreciate all the work that you're doing there in Washington on behalf of gun owners everywhere.
I appreciate it, Grant. I look forward to seeing you in Atlanta. It's going to be a great celebration.
You got it, my man. Absolutely. Hey, and Chris gave out the website. There it is at the bottom of your screen, NRAAM.org, NRAAM.org. I'm Grant Stinchfield for NRA TV. Thanks so much for watching.
You're watching NRA TV with Grant Stinchfield.